I've had so many people ask me about how do I clean antique bottles. Now, I had an old video where I rigged up a bottle tumbler. If you don't know what that is, I'm about to show y'all. That was made from a Harbor Freight rock tumbler, and I kept burning through the motor, so I finally bit the bullet and bought a really nice tumbler to be able to clean my antique bottles. I'm going to show you how that works today. It's kind of quite interesting. You use copper media and put this thing in basically a big rock tumbler tube that is specially designed to hold a bottle. Now, if you look down there in the bottom, there's actually fingers in there, and that's what will hold the base or the bottom of the bottle. And then this comb point will go into the top of the bottle. Now, the trick is you fill the bottle up about halfway with copper, you fill the tube up halfway with copper, and then you put a special compound in there. Depending on how dirty it is, you can either use 600 grit or 1200 grit. I'm going to be using 1200 grit, which is a slower cleaner. I may eventually go to 600 on some of my other bottles, but this one isn't incredibly terrible. So we're gonna go ahead and put this bottle halfway, fill it up halfway up with copper, and go ahead and start filling the tube up with copper, and then we're gonna fill it up with water. Put a little bit of this 1200 grit on the inside and the outside, and we're gonna let it go. And I'll show y'all what it looks like when we get through. Already looking better, but now we're gonna put the polishing compound in and let it run for another day or so. Get it a whole lot more shiny than what it is now. Now we wait. And this thing's gonna run for 2 days. All right guys, here it is. This is a complete product out of the tumbler. As you can see, it's nice and shiny. It looks really good. Down here on the bottom where the lettering is, obviously it's gonna look a little bit bad because of being in the creek for so long. But overall, I'm very pleased with this complete product. I am now going to be loading up a very, very corroded hutch. You can see that it looks like it's got shell built up on it. Doesn't look good. So let's see how this one turns out. All right, so the first hutch is complete now, and this one was pretty nasty, I gotta say. So it's still got some etch lines on it. I could probably put it back in with a 1200 grit and get some of that out, but it's a lot better than what it was, so I'll probably just let that ride. So that bottle, the hutch stopper, actually came out quite easily, and I'm still in the experimentation stage with this tumbler that I've got. So you can see that stopper went right back in there nicely, but I've got a hutch now that I need to tumble that I cannot get the stopper out of. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try tumbling it, and hopefully we won't have any catastrophic failures. This one right here, I'm actually not even gonna use the 1200 grit on. I'm just gonna use the aluminum oxide for the polish because it doesn't have heavy wear. So it shouldn't be a big issue to get this one clean. So I'll get back with y'all whenever it's done and we'll take a look at it together. All right guys, there it is. That one turned out pretty good. This one only tumbled for 24 hours. And like I said, I didn't use the 1200 grit. All I used was the polish. Now if you take a look down here, you see that dirty spot there and there and there and there. That's from the stopple legs down there on the bottom that holds the bottle together. That's what keeps it centered. So the only way to get rid of those would be to rotate it, put it back in and run it again. Probably not gonna do that though. This one turned out pretty nice overall. And I guess the experiment worked out that we know that you can tumble a bottle with a hutch stopper in there. Now, Jar Doctor actually recommends 5 days per bottle. This was 24 hours exactly. So I can't imagine how good it would look with 5 days worth of time. The other 2 bottles before this one had 48 hours on them. So I'm going to definitely experiment and do some that are even longer, do longer runs, but that's a pretty hefty motor on this tumbler, so I can imagine you'd probably run your power bill up. And if you're gonna take the time to do this, you need to do it with a bottle that's probably worthwhile. A $10 or $15 bottle may not make a ton of sense to put this much work into. I don't know, but I'm gonna show y'all a diagram real quick of how this actually looks all set up. All right, so here's the cleaning instructions that the Jar Doctor provides with that tumbler when you receive it. You can kind of see the diagram breakdown right here. Forgive me for the shakiness, I am filming with my cell phone tonight. But right here you can see the stopple. So you can see that cone shape would fit. They've actually got a jar pictured here where the bottle fits in there. That cone fits into the top of that bottle. There's the 4 legs to the bottom part of the stopple, and you can see how it holds the base. That keeps your bottle or your jar centered, and the copper floats around the outside as it spins and cleans. So if you look over here, it gives you, I mean, extensive instructions. We won't go through all of that, but you can see that according to the size is the amount of the oxide and the grit that you use. So obviously the smaller the bottle, the less you use, the bigger the more. And you can actually, since my unit is the large framed unit, I can actually change the pipe, or this tube size, or the canister is what he calls it, to a larger size for bigger bottles, because you can see right there it goes all the way up to a ½ gallon. Currently the tube that I have is set up for crown tops, or the regular bottles that I find in the Hutchinson style bottles. It's not set up for jars. So eventually I'll buy another one of these canisters, and it runs around 100, 120 bucks, something like that, for that canister. Now the entire unit, let's talk about price. This hurt my feelings. Took me 10 years to get it. I'm not sponsored by Jar Doctor at all. This all came out of pocket. There again, this is something that I saved up for and had to sell a whole lot of stuff to get. It was around $700, plus you got to talk about shipping on something that is massive. So the shipping in itself is about $150. From the point of me ordering it with PayPal, it took me about 3 to 4 weeks to receive the tumbler. So it's not a fast process. I know that actually the Jar Doctor guy himself had some health issues, and that may have played into the reason it took so long. I'm not for sure, but just kind of keep that in mind. If you're going to get one, it's going to take a while to get, and you're going to be out close to 800 bucks for a single canister unit. Now he is working on a more economical one, and there is a small frame unit, but the benefits of having the large frame versus the small is you can actually add multiple chambers or multiple canisters into the unit. So to me, it made sense to go ahead and get the big one, where later on I can add more pulleys and more canisters and be tumbling more than one bottle at a time. I could be doing 2 or 3, which is a big deal with as much stuff as we typically find. So there again, this is how I'm cleaning bottles now. It is very, very lengthy process. It is a very lengthy process, but it gives you the best results without a doubt. Guys, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get out on an adventure this week. We were actually iced in here in Alabama, and as we speak, I'm actually on my way to Florida Hunt 7. So I'm gonna be metal detecting with a lot of people down there. We're gonna see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. I had a good time last year. So if you did enjoy this video though, and how we cleaned bottles, and you got to know a little bit about Jar Doctor, here's his contact info. Let me know in the comments what you think about this setup. Did I overpay for it? Did I do good by getting it? Were you impressed with the results? Let me know the good and the bad below. And we'll see you guys in next week's adventure.